Ciao, senti, mandali sul mio canale perché io con quella della scuola non funziona. Io devo reimpostare tutte le volte il password. E se non gestisco io non posso farla. Li mandi sul mio canale quelli dove erano la scorsa settimana. Ok, io sono già online, eh? Ok, ciao. Hi guys, who is online? Hello Cosima. Hello Niharika. How are you guys? So let's let's wait Vanessa. Okay. Let's wait one more minute and then we can start. Ciao Laila. Okay guys. Let's do one thing before the others will join. If you want to show me your sketches, if you did something on your clocks and radius, so you can send me the link of your issue. So by the time the others will join, I can start checking. And then when I see that everyone is here, then I can do the lecture. Okay, Laila. Okay, Canon. Okay, radio clock for Canon. Change your lens, change your story. Okay, let's see. Canon is a global leading corporation that specializes in manufacturing digital image and optical products. The company was first introduced in Japan in 1937. The name represents Holy Scripture and Criterion on Standard of Judgment. Together they accurately represent Canon. Their aim is to set a global standard for advanced technologies and service while becoming a criterion in the industry that others will aspire. Kyosei conveys Canon. Okay. A new tagline was change your lens, change your story. I did some writing before the laptop crashed. Okay, but I'm for the sketches I'm not asking you the renderings in any case. So for me it's fine if you do just the hand sketches. That's the mood board, the radio, and clock. This radio clock is inspired by the lens of a camera. It's designed to be carried everywhere with you to provide music that defines and connect us with. When you open the cap of the lens, you can see the clock. If you push the center part in, the speaker will pop up. The radio clock has a dial around the speaker for changing channels. Okay. Let me see. Just a second. The cap of the lens is this one, right, where it says Canon. So when I open it, I can see the clock. If you push the center, the speaker will pop up here, and a dial around the speaker. That's the dial. Yes, I can see the clock. I don't quite get this 1, 2, 3 here. The what's written around the Canon. So if the clock is inside, what are those numbers? This is not very clear. It has a dial around the speaker for changing channels. You can rotate the dial as if you're changing the shutter speed in the camera. Up top you have an on. I changed that a little when I used 3ds Max, and now it's inside. Okay. So those numbers are not, the numbers are not there. So it's going to be completely clean with the clock inside. You can also sync it to your Bluetooth device and play songs. 3 simple functions on the bottom part of the radio clock, either to play, skip forward, or go backwards on the song. 2 hooks on the either side to put a shoulder strap so you can carry it everywhere you go and wear it on your neck as if it is a lens. Okay. Lila, I have one question. When I take the clock away, when it pops out and I detach it, so I just have a hold here, right? It's just an empty area until where it goes. So does the hole go all the way through, or it stops somewhere in the center? because the clock and radio must be detachable. The clock is very shallow. Okay. Because you should be able to detach it. So what will happen once you detach the clock? The speaker, for example, now you said that you have the speaker here. So what would happen when you detach the clock with the speaker? Will I be able to listen to the radio or not? Because if not, then the speaker should be on the radio. Let me see the sketches. It will become detachable. Okay, it has to become detachable. Let me see. You know what? It's okay to be a lens. So it's fine that you're using it as a lens, but I think there can be maybe something, I don't know. What is Canon? When I think about Canon, I think about photography, the philosophy. Okay, so now I don't want to make a concept, but the first thing that comes to my head is that when there is a photo, there has to be a frame. So when I would think about an object, okay, so don't think in terms of an object again. You're thinking too much, everyone, so it's not only for Lila, but so far I'm seeing the projects that you're concentrating a lot on the clock and radio. Concentrate on something that somehow shows the time, that somehow plays the music. It doesn't have to be necessarily a analog clock or digital clock, okay? I don't know. Wait, I give you an example. Like, guys, so who said that your clocks can't be like this? Something interesting. So I'm not saying now for Canon especially, or for other brands that you showed me. Okay, sun clocks, especially as I said for Canon. So when I think about photography, the first things that come to my mind are photos, frames, compositions. So if this object is going to be given by Canon, okay, I'm speaking about the corporate identity of Canon, so it has to emphasize the photography as the process. Okay, so not because of lens or because of if I make a if I make a camera, so the camera can be for everyone. It can be for Nikon, it can be for Zenith. So who said that it has to be Canon? So Canon has how they can be different. They are different because their pictures are different. Okay, so maybe it can be some kind of a frame. So it's a clock where I can put I don't know, the picture that I like, and every day I will have a different clock. Okay, I don't know if I'm explaining. Well, okay. So something that that will give me more idea for photography rather than just a clock. Okay, a clock that I can personalize. I don't know. I hang this clock on the wall, and inside I can put the collage of pictures of my kids. Okay, me. Someone else will put the pictures of their pets. Okay, that I take with Canon, obviously. Okay, also something like this for the radio. Okay, so it's not only, there are some brands where you can use the logo types, obviously the colors, etc. Okay, but some brands that offer also services, like Canon. Canon, if I make it black and I write Canon on top, basically I can do anything. Okay, but in this case I have to transmit somehow the philosophy. Okay. Did I make myself clear, Laila? Okay, I think you should think a little bit more about, not about the mechanism and the buttons and the lenses, etc. Okay, but about the principle. So, what is photography for you? Okay, I think you had the photography class with Marco. So, I don't know, he taught you something. Composition making, or it can be some type of a clock. I don't know. So it can be the radio that will have a I don't know, particular station where they will transmit online, like radio tutorials or music. Like a lounge music by which I can sit and retouch my photos on Photoshop, let's say. Okay, so a little bit more philosophy rather than an object. Okay? Okay, try to think by the end of the class, if we have time, I would like to see it again, because next week, no, let me check. When is the due date? I think it's in 2 weeks. Oh, no. Let me check. Sorry guys, because I had everything on the computer of the school, so I'm trying to put everything on my phone. Today is the second week of feedback, so next week is the last one, and the week after we'll have the final. Okay, so you have two more weeks. Okay, great. Okay, so I see that people are here, so let me do this brief theory class, and then I will see the clocks of the others. Okay, Lila, do you have any questions regarding your project? Okay, perfect. Okay, so what I would like to talk about today is mass production. And this is something that a lot of time is forgotten by the students when they are designing their projects. Um, it is completely a different thing when you are designing for a person, so for one particular client, or you are designing for something to be produced in mass. Because when you're designing for a client, you work mainly as in the same with the same philosophy as the craftsman. But when you are designing for mass production, you never know who your end client is going to be, where your object is going to end up. So you have to keep in mind that you will be not close to the person when he or she is using your product, and this is very important. Another thing is to remember also that your projects will have to be produced by machines industrially, because anything that I do by hand can't be mass produced. So if I'm producing my objects by hand, I am a craftsman, I'm an artist, okay, but I can't produce in big quantities. And again, this is different because most of the time the projects that the student is coming with, they're suitable for craftsmanship, but they're not suitable for mass production. Okay, so come to this point, I would like to explain how mass production came up. So, as you already know, in the 19th century there was a big turning point. There was industrial revolution. So what happened before? What was happening before? There were people who were craftsmen and who were producing the objects, clothes, furniture. Was that at a certain point the request was so high that those poor craftsmen, they couldn't satisfy all the requests. Okay, and they started. People started obviously to get nervous because they were asking for something, and this something was not given. With the invention of the machine, so on in 19th century, the situation has changed, because first of all, what happened was we had a big again turning point, because we started to have a middle class, so the class of workers, because before the good products were available only to people who were wealthy, okay, so of higher society. The people who had nothing, who were servants, had really basic things. The workers were not as rich as obviously as the noble people, but already had some means, and they were requiring also some things to lead their lives in a good way. Okay, and the factories started actually to produce those objects. So the problem was that at that time, I don't know if you have seen the old machinery in maybe some museums, they're really funny. Okay, so if I show you the first steam engine, obviously you're going to laugh. So this was the first oops, why did this happen? This was the first steam engine. So with this steam, the belt was rotating and rotating the wheel. So the machine was working. Okay, um, there were some steam engines that were movable. Okay, so obviously now the technology has advanced drastically, and we don't have those funny machines anymore. But the problem was that since this machinery was so down to earth, people were trying to search for something new, for something a little bit different, because the machines were producing objects that were quite simple. If you remember, in furniture design, so the guys who had furniture design with me, I mentioned black box design. So they were so simple that they look like black boxes. What is a black box? A black box is anything, okay? So it doesn't have any particular function, it doesn't speak a language, okay? It's anything can be a black box, a stool, a stand, I don't know, a table, anything. And it's not different, so one black box is not different from the other, and this is a big problem, because I, as a person, so I have my own personality and I do want to be different. I can't have black boxes as all the other I don't know, 1,000 people that live in my village. I want to show my personality, okay? And they started actually there was this big fight that afterwards has come to an end, because people understood that it's better to do something more minimalistic, more simple, but different, where the functionality was the beauty, okay? But still, mass production has changed people's lives a lot, because they started to have things available, objects available in the shop. So there was money, I could go and buy a new suit, okay? Yes, it was simple. Yes, it was not something super artistic, super maybe aesthetical. But I could go to a party with, like, I could go to listen to a concert, for example, with a suit. And the design, that's why we start, especially at the end of 19th century, beginning of 20th century, industrial product design, okay? Because industrial product can be anything. It's from furniture to I don't know, spaceships, etc. So any object, any product is an industrial product. And we start to speak about the industrial product design, because before it was pure and pure craftsmanship. Okay? Um, what is mass production? It is a production of big quantities of objects that have some kind of a common standard, okay? For example, in the factories, if you ever go and see the automobile car factories, you could see that the car is never built as a one single object, okay? There is some part of the factory when they make the wheels, some part of the factory where they make the chassis, etc., etc. And usually at the end all those pieces are assembled together. And those pieces are produced in big quantities. So for example, if I have a pen like this, okay, so this pen can be produced of different pieces that at a certain point would be assembled by a robot or by a human somewhere else. Okay, so it's not that I'm producing this pen completely. Okay, so mass production is extremely important, because I have to think how actually people are going to produce the objects. Okay, so people in factories, because we have some people who work there, or machines, or people who actually activate these machines. Okay, how eventually they're going to be joined, okay, and how they're going to be shipped or taken to a shop where people can actually buy them. Okay, so you can see on this slide it says that mass production refers to the process of creating large numbers of similar products efficiently. This is a very, very, very important word, okay? Efficiently. What does it mean? That I have to be efficient. So if I am producing in a big scale, so in big quantity, something, I have to earn money. To produce something, I invest. Okay, so the money that I invest into production is called the cost of the object, and then I sell this object. So if the gap between the cost and the price, so there has to be a gap. So if there is a gap, that means that at a certain point I will have the profit. If my cost is the same with my price, I will not lose anything, but I will not gain anything either. If my cost is more than my profit, then I will get bankrupt. Okay, so there always have to be the gap. The reason nowadays why a lot of objects are produced in China, but because the cost of production there is lower, so I can keep the same price, but I can drop the cost, so I can basically earn more. Okay, this is going to be efficient. Second case, how can I do it efficiently? If I manage to produce a lot of pieces in as much short time as possible, this is also efficiency. So if I am producing one light bulb in 1 month, this is not efficient. If I am producing 100 light bulbs per minute, I am quite efficient because I produce more, I sell more, and then I get more money. Okay, so here the efficiency is extremely, extremely, extremely important. Here it says also, mass production is typically characterized by some type of mechanization. That's why I said that before Industrial Revolution we didn't have much of design. I don't have a medieval industrial design, okay, or medieval furniture design. So they were all craftsmen. Nowadays we use the factories, we use the machine, okay, and for this reason this is also something that has to be considered by the designer. Okay, I repeat, this is only and only if I want to produce in big quantities. If not, I work one-to-one with client. Okay, and then all the rules that I talked about here are not applicable. Most probably all of you know the famous car Ford, and the founder of this car, Henry Ford, actually was actually the first to apply a mass production and assembly line in 1930s. So mass production had some certain consequences. So when the objects started to be formed, started to be produced in the factories, there were some consequences, and the first one, I will start to write it down. And the first one is assembly line. Okay, so what is the assembly line? Assembly line is when my object is produced piece by piece, okay, and then those pieces are joined somewhere together. Okay, in this case usually we have, this is called a conveyor. If you go to some big factories, you see those huge belts, okay, something like this, where the objects are being produced. Okay, so people are working and the belts are taking the work pieces from one room to another. Okay, you put assembly line, you put, this is the, for example, the assembly line with people, workers. Okay, where something is being packed, something is being checked, something is being I don't know, retouched, painted, etc., etc. Okay, the assembly line is a great invention. Why did it become so famous? Because first of all, imagine, let's say you are designing, or you have to produce a chair. So you have to make a chair from scratch. So what do you have to know? You have to know ergonomics by yourself, everything by yourself, so everything on your own. So you have to know ergonomics, you have to know materials, joinery, carpentry, how glue, no, if I need to glue something, so adhesives, um, all types of mechanical joinery, for example, I don't know, screws, nails, etc. So whatever I'm going to use in my chair, etc., etc. Okay, and I have to, and plus the carpentry, so to cut, to measure, etc. How much time do you think I will need to imply to learn how to make a chair? Can I do it in one day? I don't think so. There are some craftsmen that spend time with their students, okay, and those students, they stay there in the workshop for years to understand and to learn how something can be done, okay. But because I have to do the object, I have to make it from the very beginning till the very end, and this is extremely complicated. So imagine that I own a factory where the person will have to do everything from scratch till the end. So I will have, obviously, when I hire such a person, I'll have to spend time in his education and money, obviously. So time is money always. Okay. Uh, he will do mistakes in the beginning, a lot of mistakes, till the time that he comes to the level where he can do the object alone. Okay, so there is too much investment and too little outcome. So what Henry Ford thought in 1913, so imagine how clever this guy was, he said, instead of teaching the worker to do everything from the beginning till the end, he said, let's divide the work into smaller pieces. So let's say my factory is producing a chair, so there will be one person who will do the legs, one person who is going to do the seat, one person who is going to do I don't know, the backrest, one person who will put the upholstery, one person who is going to attach the legs to the seat, now one person who attaches the seat to all the rest, etc., etc. And then at the end there will be some people who will assemble everything together, some people who would pack everything, some people who would sand it, etc., etc. Okay, so is there a difference between making a complete chair from wood or making one leg? Obviously, making one leg is much easier, because once I understand how this leg is done, I can do 10,000 legs, and at a certain point I can become like a machine. So every day I will do legs, 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 legs. Always the same. The guy who is joining the legs to the seat, always the same legs to the same seat. Okay? So nowadays, for example, we don't have, in the big companies, we don't have people who do this anymore, but it's done by machine. So one machine does the leg, one machine does the seat, etc., etc. And for that reason, obviously, this is the production happens much faster. So I did not invest time and money into education of that person or the machine or the person who works with the machine, okay, but I get much more products in return. what happened here in 1913, so when Henry Ford introduced the assembly line to the production of his Ford, 2 years. By 1915, Ford has reduced the time it took to produce an automobile by 90%. I don't know, guys, if you can imagine how much is that. Okay? How much in time and how much in money as the result as well. The result that, so what was the result is that automobiles were more, so the price of the car has dropped down, because if I manage to produce the car not for 10,000 euros but for 5,000 euros, the cost, I'm speaking about the cost. So what I can do is I can also drop down the price to make it more affordable, okay, and more attractive materially to my clients. Okay, I will still have my income, but it's the car that has become more affordable. So 90% is a huge number. And that was the reason why Henry Ford has become so famous. If you see if you see other projects, so if you go to some factories, where is it? And you would see how the objects are produced. So you see a group of seating like this. Okay, so these are all mass produced. So again, I'm dropping the cost. The price can be or the same, or I can drop the price as well, so it will be more attractive. And at this point, my object becomes much more affordable. And this was one of the consequences. Okay, so this was consequence number one. Consequence number two was standardization. So if I see one of the examples of standardization, a rifle. So again, if before mass production all pieces were produced manually and entirely by one single person, it was hard to repair something. So if I don't know, your chair breaks down, what you have to do is you take the chair to the furniture maker, and he will have to redo, for example, the broken leg again, which is quite a big problem because I will have to wait for, I don't know, 2 weeks maybe to get my chair back. Because every time a spare part or a new piece had to be done. And obviously this costs a lot, consumes a lot of time, and people had to, unfortunately, to wait. With mass production, since the objects started to be produced by machines, those objects were identical. I can be the best craftsman ever, but as the human being, I can't make two identical pieces. Impossible. Okay? And for that reason, what they started to use was a concept of standardization. So the pieces that were standard. Okay? Standardization. Most probably a lot of you have heard about ISO standard or EN standard. What are those standards? There are some certain common measurements. So, for example, I have to make a table, and I need to connect the legs of the table to the tabletop. What would I need for that? I would need some screws. So it's not that I am inventing the new screws to be connected to the table. I go to the shop, I buy the screws that are available in the shop, I go to the other shop, I buy a drill, I drill the holes that will be the size of the screws that I have, so I have to buy the bits, and I attach the leg to the table. Point. If I want to invent some kind of a new joinery, okay, so I will need obviously to invent the new pieces. So I'll have to invent a new screw, I'll have to invent, produce, distribute, etc., etc., new drill with new bit, etc., etc. So how much will my table cost me at the end? My table will cost me a fortune, because I will have to do everything from scratch instead of using something common. For example, if you go online, there is the company that's called Hefele, which are the biggest manufacturers of joinery. Hefele with two umlaut, with two dots on top. Okay, and you can check, for example, for the spare pieces or joints. Furniture, kitchen, living solutions. Example: waste bed fittings. Okay, wardrobe. Let's say wardrobe and storage. And here you have all the different types of I could show more. So railings, mechanisms, like supports, tube shaving, hinges, and so on and so on. Okay, so what I can do is I can create my own joinery. Okay, or I can go to Hefele and click, for example, this type of the storage for, I don't know, how do you call them, the ties, have the dimensions and use them. If I need to use some type of a hinge, okay, so again, those hinges can be ordered from this company, and they have standard measurements. Like here we even have the orthographic drawings that you can insert in directly into your 2D presentation. Okay, and I would use the dimension that is standard. So I don't have to invent a new machine that will do it, but I would use the standard one that the company, that the factory that will produce my table will have. Okay, standardization is extremely important. What do we have in standardization is, as I said, ISO, which is International Standard Organization. Okay, this is worldwide. Okay, then we have, for example, continents, EN, European standard. We have American standard. Okay, example, I'm put this is okay. I can have the country standards. For example, in Germany we have TÜV, in Russia we have GOST, in Italy we have IT. Okay, so these are the different organizations that provide the certifications of the standard. Okay, I'm just giving you a name. Okay, in this case we have the country. So this standardization actually was something that could be possible only with mass production. So when all let's say the objects, the fittings, the joints, etc., etc., they have some common magnitude or some common measurements. Okay, so when I have something like this, it can lead to a next consequence, which I will write down in a few seconds. Okay, so I put here standardization is when products or environments, because also in the environment I have the standard. Let's say if I'm in interior, if I'm designing an office, it has to satisfy some common standards, lighting, I don't know, ventilation, etc., etc. Okay. And the fact that the pieces were standard, so the pieces were made by the machine, like you can see in this rifle, it led to a third consequence, which is called interchangeability. Okay? What does it mean when something is interchangeable? It means that if one piece of my object is broken, what I can do is I can go and replace it. Basically, what we have now, when I'm driving a car and I have a flat tire, I go and I exchange the tire. Before, people had to do to buy the objects brand new. If the leg of my chair is broken, I have to buy a new chair. Nowadays, since the objects are standard, I go to IKEA, for example, I buy a new leg, I unmount the old one and I mount on the new one, and I have my perfectly functional chair again. Okay? And this is possible only, again, when I have mass production. So why IKEA has become so popular? Because not only with standard objects that are following a certain assembly line, I can buy different pieces and assemble them according to my own taste to show my personality, but because also I can replace the pieces that are broken. Okay, many times I had to go to IKEA and to buy a new wheel for my folding bed. Okay, a new connector for my shelf. Okay, this happened a lot, but at least I don't have to throw my cabinet away. Uh, and this, but with human work, so if someone is going to do it by hand, obviously this would not be possible. You can't make things interchangeable. You can't, almost can't. It's almost, I always leave this 1% of probability. It's almost not possible to make a standard object where the pieces that are broken have to be changed. And the first example, as most of the things that unfortunately happen in our lives, uh, this principle of interchangeability was applied in a rifle, in a weapon, where every single piece was produced by machine. Okay, and if something was breaking, this piece could have been interchanged. Okay, so during unfortunately during the wartime, this principle was very highly used because the weapon was staying the same, the soldier was keeping it, and only a small part has been was being replaced. So this was how it all started. Okay, now we have interchangeable everything. We're starting actually to forget the interchangeability in our gadgets, but this is made, unfortunately, to get the most of money out of us. For example, in our smartphones, if you remember, in old times we could change the battery, so the phones were lasting more. So what I have to do is I change when the battery dies. After 2 years, I change the battery, and it still works. Like my granddad is still using his mobile phone that dates back to, I think, 1999, 2000, so more than 20 years, and it's still perfectly working. Is that every 3-4 years he has to change the battery. Now, unfortunately, in this new gadgets, tablets, computers, etc., to make you spend more money, they charge you less to buy new objects rather than change the screen that is broken or the battery that died. Okay, so now slowly, unfortunately, we're going backwards. So let me write this down. Okay, so now obviously you would say, okay, we spoke for almost half an hour about mass production, but why do I need to know this? But because if you're going to produce something, let's say one day they hire you, they call you from IKEA and okay, uh, so you would think twice if you should invent something new, something like I don't know, a particular screw that would go particularly in that specific hole, etc., or you would use what they are offering, the measurements that they have, the machinery that they have, that the table has to be, I don't know, 45, as I'm speaking about the small coffee table, 45 centimeters, 45 by 45, or you should choose a measurement that is going to be different. Okay, so this is going to be a choice of you as a designer. Okay, and this is going to be quite an important choice that you will make. Okay, because then seeing IKEA that they are, I think, one of, if not the most, the biggest mass furniture producing company, so you have to adequate your projects to what they are already doing. Okay, do you guys have any questions? Please write them down if there is something that is not clear. By the time I'm going to save it and put it as the board notes in industrial design. Do not forget that all the classes that we do are, so the slides of all the classes are available on the Google Docs, on the Google Drive. Now I'm putting industrial design. Here I have teacher board notes. Okay, so already I have some that I've done before. And how can I save it? Save document. Okay, and I will put it on. I'll put it online. Okay. Alright. Let's see your wakes. There are some projects that I think I haven't even seen. Let me check your class. Yeah. Okay, I've never checked Ugo. I've never checked Rugved. I've never checked Olivia, Cecilia, so some of you. If not, I will go on with the ones that I have already seen. So who wants to show? Or I can go just name my name. I have some issues by Microsoft. Ruglet, you don't have to do it in the office. It's not that important. Okay, you can make. I fully understand that now some of you guys may experience problems, but for me it's fine even if you do it by hand. So even if you write the presentation by hand, if you make the sketches by hand, for me it's the same. The only thing that you have to take pictures of your works with CAM scanner, for example. You scan them, you make a PDF, and that's it. So I'm not asking you necessarily to have a super cool PowerPoint presentations. Okay. I showed you the example of presentations that I did myself. So this is something that you can do. So it's not necessarily that it has to be done by computer. Mm-hmm. Rugut, maybe because you were not there in the first class, I'll just show you an example of what type of sketches, what type of presentation I'm asking for. It's just an example, so it's not that it has to be necessarily done in this way. But like This is, for instance, is the presentation. Okay, this is completely handmade. The only thing is was that here I asked them to use only one A3. Okay, and obviously in your case you can use more pages. Okay, but here the concept is completely clear. So what the chair is, how it folds down, the dimensions, etc., etc. Okay, another presentation example. Okay, I wanted to understand that this is not a 3D Max class, okay? So for me, your ability of rendering something for now at this initial stage, for final presentation, yes, obviously I'm going to see it, but for now, the only thing that I need to see is the idea, and this idea has to be somehow shown, even if you draw on a piece of paper without colors, okay? But it looks nice. For me this is valid, so you should be able to explain yourself somehow. Okay, and the project should be clear. This is another example. So here everything is clear, how the object is, the inspirational project, the actual object, etc., etc. Okay. Anna, who else? Who wants to show? Cosima, do you have something to show me? Let me check. Now that I have your online portfolios and names, I can check them. Cosima's. Alloy. Okay. Cosima, make another stack with manufacturing, please. Okay. Copy. Okay, it was for yoga, for the brand that makes the accessories. For yoga accessories and clothing, the watch has a digital display and therefore no buttons are needed. Knobs on the button make it possible to attach the watch either directly to the strap or on top of the radio. Mm-hmm. Wait a second, let me see if I can find it. There was a project that has been made some years ago. Let me check, maybe on Facebook. And they made something quite similar to what you've done. It was a clock and radio that were attachable, and the brand was Mobike. Let me check them. I just want to see if I find it to show you the presentation, so maybe it can also help you with your projects. The thing is, I don't remember when it was. Photos. Basically what they have done was it was a clock and radio that you could attach directly onto the bike when you rent it. But I need to show you the presentation because it was really cool. If not, when I find you, I'll send you the link. It's on my page, but where is it? See my Instagram. On the it's definitely on the Instagram, but now I don't want to go through all the posts. The cool thing was that they used they worked a lot on material, and this was a really cool thing. So they used silicone through which you could see the lights, so you can see the numbers of the time, and this was really nice. I wish I could show it to you, but I absolutely don't remember when it was done. So it's somewhere on the page, but I don't know where. No way I can find it now. It was too long time ago. This was a fun project for Netflix. There was one girl who did this clock and radio for Netflix. This was the clock and this was the radio, and inside there was this artificial popcorn. But they actually used the silicone. Let me check on maybe on Instagram I have it. They used it for the it on Instagram. Oh, I found it on Instagram. And it was December 2017. So December 2017. So it has to be somewhere here. Hi. Ara. Yeah, 1st December 2017 on Instagram. Could you find it? Because if you can find it, it will be much faster. Yeah? Because on computer it's really slow. Hi, Croco. I found it. This is the presentation. So this is the clock and the radio. Ah, no. And it has the timer and stopwatch for the outdoor activities. And plus it's a cool speaker. And this is how it works. So basically the case is all made from silicone. Okay, and through the silicone you could read the time. So on one side is the time, on the other side it's the radio station. Okay, and when the radio or the clock is not working, you have those funny eyes, and it plays the music also, so you can work out. And it has the silicone strap that you can bind on the bicycle, for example. Okay, so this is this is why I was searching for it so long. So maybe it can be something also, the concept can be something similar for you, since it's for yoga. So maybe it can the radio, for example, can transmit some type of relaxing music. Oh, the radio. So basically this is the strap that you put on your hand, and this is the clock and the radio that you put on the radio on. The first 4 circles are knobs, the others are holes. Due to the many holes in it, the strap is very flexible. Not only can the size be adjusted to the user or the object is fixed to, but it's also possible to attach the watch and the radio to any of the holes. It's okay, but the only thing is, where exactly are you putting the band? On your biceps, or it's going to be on your wrist? Now, on the wrist, it can be a bit difficult, because you're moving your hands a lot. And plus I think in yoga, you have to use your hands. So if you have something here, this is going to be too hard. Or it has to be super tiny. So both the watch and the radio have to be something very, very small. For example, the radio should be maybe the size of iPod, this tiny one. Then yes, then you can put it on the wrist. If not, you can make it bigger and put it on your arm. Something like this. So depending on how big your clock and radio are going to be. And then I have one more question. Attaching the clock and the radio to the band is fine, but can I attach them to each other and then attach them to the band? Is it possible? Or I have to attach them always one by one? Back. I'm just looking at something that already exists. Okay, and how will they look together? So they will be attached to each other. This is my question. Let me put it like this. So if I have the strap, let's say, okay, this is the strap. Okay, here I have the holes. Here it's the radio, and here it's the clock. Or I can actually join the radio to the clock and then combine them. Okay, and then question, when I attach them to each other, let's say this is the clock, okay, and this is the radio. How are they going to be attached, and how they're going to be attached to the strap afterwards? Like, for now, as far as I understood, if this is the clock it has this I don't know, buttons here that would go into the hole. Okay, but how do I check? This one has the knobs here. The clock has the knobs here, right? So how they would be attached, and once both of them are attached, so they're like this. They're two attached. So how am I going to put it there? In my opinion, if you can maybe, why you say you can't wear them together? In my opinion, you can easily use them together. For example, where the radio, similar to what Lila did. So where actually there would be a strap, okay, with the holes. Yeah, the knobs are on the bottom, but then once I connect them together, it's impossible to put them on the strip. That's what I'm saying. So what I was thinking, if you have the radio, okay, and the radio has the knobs here, and then your radio, the clock, so this goes inside this one, and then this, so also it has the legs. And here can be the speaker. So you can use the radio on its own, the clock on its own, okay, both of them together, and both of them on a strip. So you would have four possible solutions. So pretty much the same idea that the guys had, same, similar. Like, there is the radio here, okay, and the clock that goes on top of the radio, and you can use them together or you can use them separately. So I think in your case it can be a great idea. Or another thing is to use the straps, or not to attach the clock onto the radio, because no, you can actually. You can use the strap itself as the connector between the clock and radio. You know how there were those watches where you can change the numbers, the display. So you have a certain belt, a certain color belt, and then you can put always the display here. I think this could be a nice, also a nice idea. So I don't know. Let's say the strap would have. This the strap would have some certain cavity, or I don't know, something. I'm just thinking of this the watch, no? So it's silicone. And inside this one you can put the radio, and inside like the Russian doll, you know, so you put everything inside everything else. So this would go in, and inside this one okay, and then here you would have the okay, something like this. Fine. Okay, by next week try to figure out something. It's getting there. I can see already that it starts to have some shapes, and I like this one more because it's more close to their philosophy. Okay, so to how they think. Okay. Is there someone else who wants to show me something? Next week I will do just the feedbacks, okay? I will show you maybe how to do some presentation ideas, for example, how to do exploded view, how to do cutout, so this can be useful for you. They can do it on computer, you can do it by hand. I'll try to use the graphic tablets to show it, but this can be useful for presentation in general, so should it be interior, should it be industrial. Okay, guys, any others who want to show? This I think is old. Another thing, so if no one wants to ask anything, guys, look at the clocks in general. As I said, don't think in terms of the object, but if you go to, for example, Pinterest, I don't know if it will make me go there. Vabbè, who said that your clocks have to be only digital or only analog? For example, wait. See if it works. There was a block clock. For example, something like this, where you can work with materials. You see, when there is light behind the wood, when you're touching it, and when you don't want to see the time, there is nothing. Okay. So don't think only in terms of of the clock object, but there was one clock where now I can't find it, unfortunately. I was a Japanese designer. He was writing down the numbers and continuously erasing them. That was crazy. Let me check if I can maybe find it. Okay, there can try to think something interesting. Maybe, I don't know, can be cardboard. Okay, some material where it's a cardboard and can be constructed by yourself. For example, if I go for IKEA, and it can be I don't know, like do it yourself clock, let's say. Let me see. This one. Unfortunately, the website is not working, but here the animation was that every time the time was passing, a new number was occurring. Okay, this is a new approach to time. Okay, it can be something like this. Let's see if we can. See it here. Huh? So every time the second, the minute is changing. Now look at number 2. Okay, this is the type of the clock. This was the similar thing with this was the similar thing, but with the blocks. As I said, now the video of this one is really hard to find. So when he was building the blocks, putting them one on top of each other, and then knocking them down. Okay, and then the time was going on. Okay, I don't know, putting the beans, sugar, Okay, something like that. Guys, for next class, as I said, try to be interesting, because this is you're too connected to the product. Okay, so you're to have fun. Okay, do something funny, something interesting. Okay, function is good. Okay, to show the time, to show the radio that has to play music. Okay, but have some fun with this project, because I left you complete freedom. Think of philosophy. Okay, now I was thinking about Cosima yoga. So for me, when I think about yoga and I see the sand that goes down, so maybe instead of a watch to make a stopwatch, because yoga has to be done, it's not fitness. Yoga is something mental. So maybe it can be, as I said, so it can be a sand clock where I see the flow of time. So I'm doing my yoga exercise, I don't know, whatever, or I'm meditating and I see the time that is flowing. Okay, so the concepts can be slightly different from just trying. We are not working. I didn't ask you to work for Swatch or I don't know, Saint Olivier, etc. Okay. So next week I'm waiting for your sketches. I will see all of you. I'll try in 2 hours to see all of you, because obviously it's impossible that we can work in the workshop doing the model. Okay, so I will spend that class just giving feedbacks. Okay, and I will look through your works. Okay, because then the week after I will have to see the final presentations. Do you have any questions? If not, I will say bye bye. Okay, then I will see you for the materials and manufacturing class on Friday. Okay, check on which channel I am, because I'm having some technical issues, so see what lady tells you where to go. Okay, ciao guys.